What's up, traders? Guys, this is a update for the just those of you on the team here as far as Bitcoin goes. I guess I'll say about the overall markets. It's been a while. I've kind of been out, so I haven't done a video. Just traveling different things during the summer here. But um, before I get into the technicals on BTC futures, the overall market is still the strongest asset or category or place to be has been long dollar. So I think the energy as far as markets and where most of the flow has been around currencies, the dollar specifically, whether you want to talk about capital flows or just opportunities to trade. Um, so that's what we've been kind of focused on while crypto's been very quiet, very soft, low energy. And that just is what it is. Everything has its season, everything has a time and a place, and that's true for markets. You know, the opposite of strong dollar has been you've been in gold, you've been getting your ass absolutely handed to you. So, been long that is. Um, might have saw some capitulation here um actually today with this bottoming tail. But just because you have a bottoming tail at the end of the move, you're still buying lower lows, guys. It's not necessarily something that's going to turn around and kill it for you. Place to be has been on the short side, which has been long the dollar. So I'm not going to get into that too much. It's still the same theme that we've had a great call on. I've been making a ton of money this week in FX. I think I'm at like 25,000 on the week. A lot of it I've been doing on mobile. And the time will come when we get start, um, banging them around like that in crypto. We're just it hasn't been the place this year to generate any alpha. So Uh, one other thing I was going to say. Well, I'll do some updates specifically for other markets. All right, so here on Bitcoin, it's futures level, whether you want to call it 5,800, 6,000, the futures are going to roll, guys, too. So what might be a low 3 months ago might be a different price than this month's low just because the contracts are different. Um, but this is an area, right? So we're still basing, which is actually quite positive, the fact that we haven't completely broken down after one, two, three, four. I call it five tests of this area. And we do a top down. There's nothing on the monthly to really talk about other than that we have a swing line here. Let me erase some of this stuff and clean. Uh, so still, I've talked about it before. If you look at the prior month's close, we still haven't closed above the prior candle's high. So that's clearly showing you the intermediate term, long term kind of downtrend that we've been in. The weekly, back in another down cycle, which sucks. So I don't expect to see any type of breakout to the upside till September now, at least. I'll show you the longer term cycles. We put in this pivot that's clear now, 8,500 in futures. Pretty, it's such a staircase of lower highs. And if we go to the daily chart, again, this daily cycle's done a pretty good job. You had to lighten up here at the top of the cycle. Coming into the bottom of the cycle, there's it's time and price. So I didn't like I didn't like buying after the 30 didn't hold, just because I'd rather wait and see how we react. I was kind of waiting to keep a couple contracts in my back pocket for a lower low, and I just don't see a rush to get long here. I've been pretty quiet on issuing signals. I just don't see there's that much to do on the short side. There's not that much to do on the long side. Signals. So we took profits pretty well into these highs. Lightened up on both the cash and different names we liked up here, and then kind of slowly started putting some risk back on. I really thought we had a good shot at going here, like I've said before. buying into this dip. I really wanted to see the 30 here hold about halfway off this wall. And the market just did 100% retrace. Sometimes that happens. So market's just not ready to rally. This would have caught on this pullback. There would have been more buyers here. So we're just not quite there. And this is clearly the pivot now. 8,500. Come back up, get above that level, you got a new higher high, then longer term you're just going to start to see more momentum. Now we could rally here and put in another lower high, maybe like 7,500. Come back down, then that would be your new pivot. But that's the main thing here, is that we're still seeing lower highs. We check out the cycles. I was just looking at Tezos. I've never really traded this name, only on a few exchanges. But it's getting back to some levels that are pretty interesting in the weekly cycle. It's just one of the names that was all the rage and then disappeared, and doesn't seem like anybody trades it. So I don't get it. BTC. So our longer term monthly 8.6 wave still has us turning up into September. We'll see if that's the case or not. We kind of wondered if that was going to be it. If that was going to be the case, since we made the high 8.6 months later, it makes sense that we start to rally. That's the right duration of time. You know, time heals, guys. It just takes, got to build these bases and work off the weak hands and all that froth and excitement that causes that excess and the bubble type of price action. That takes a while to, to go through the market. So it's part of what creates a cycle. Our next minor wave is coming up here to the weekend. All these turns seem to be taking place on the weekend. So Sunday into Monday, we'll see if we get a bottom or if we get another lower high. A lower low on this cycle would be not good. That would mean we could cycle lower into September 3rd. And we did peak here at pi with this wave, so that could be pointing us to a low September also on this wave. Something to keep in mind. There's a lot lining up more like the beginning part of September. Seems to be a little bit more major. If we go and just look at price, Zero X looks pretty good back here. I'll hit on a couple that I think all right. So we've worked off a lot. I mean, we're at pretty low RSI levels. Daily cycle was really low, coming into 6,000. We do have a BCI. You know, you guys that have studied the course, you understand what that looks like. Pretty much mark the middle of the move. Trying to get above the 8. We haven't had a daily closing above the 8. If we can start to make some higher highs here above 6,500, 6,560, you look at futures, it kind of shows up 4 hour. You can see we broke the TMS and the bands up here at 7,600. Then we've been in this intermediate term downtrend. Clearly a pivot high now at 6,602, 6,600. right here. We get above there, guys, we maybe have another 3 to 5 day type of swing trade or swing trade rally. And then the downside, obviously, we don't want to break this low or it's going to look really ugly. So I'm small long and I haven't made any moves for a week since we punted on half of what I bought here. So right here we came out of half of what I was long. I'm just waiting. That's all I really have to say on that. Now, if we look on a relative value basis, I think Litecoin, we've made some pretty good sales. We've made some pretty good sell signals here. We were worried about a couple of these levels breaking. And then the last move I made was making sales here in July. So we're basically already down 30-40% from those levels. And that doesn't mean it's a buy. It's just you're getting to levels where Litecoin is getting really, really cheap. I think some of you guys remember. You remember how big of a move this seemed when we traded into 90? Some of you guys remember? We were long in here in the 40s, and then the market screamed, and people were chasing buying 90. Like this, they were going crazy here in the Asia sessions. But then I remember I was having VC meetings and guys were talking about how they saw people buying 90 and then we were back down in the 40s. How ridiculous that was. And then there was guys in our group, I think Mark specifically, he was buying down here Litecoin in the 32, 35 handle. So we've been to these levels and it just seems like it's so cheap relative to where we were. I mean, coming from 400 now all the way back to 50 just seems crazy. But that's the thing with lower lows. I'm not in a hurry to buy now either. Just I'm looking at what support. This old base was 50, 54. I can't imagine trading into the 30s. But yeah, I mean, until this can start to make higher highs and higher lows, there's no reason to be bottom fishing on all this stuff. The only thing I thought maybe I would pick my position up on is Ether. It's because it looks so cheap relative to Bitcoin. I mean, it couldn't hold 350. Went to 250. We've talked about there was this old prior base here, right around 300. But there's no need to rush in and these markets need to start making higher lows and higher highs. Try to look to buy dips in the markets that are doing that. But Ether versus BTC, there was a chance we were going to hold this 0.05 level. That broke. So Ether hasn't been this cheap since November, December when Bitcoin was really starting to ramp up. And I think I mean, it's just showing you how cheap Ethereum relative to Bitcoin. Now, if Bitcoin takes another leg down, this can come lower, but at 2-3 cents, um, that's a pretty small fraction for one Bitcoin. Think about it. I mean, even you could say that Ethereum is rich when it's 12, 13, 14 cents on the dollar for every Bitcoin. But down here at 3 cents, getting crazy. Litecoin's actually down even more versus BTC. So a lot of pain here. We're getting probably closer to a low though. So we'll see. Maybe get closer to our turning points, we can pick up some ether at even better levels down here. I think it's just more of being patient. And then the charts that are making higher lows, we're Like Binance was one of them that was hanging in there. It finally even cracked. That chart doesn't look very good. Couldn't hold these lows. Now you're making lower lows. First time we've had lower lows since March. It's not good. Let's just see where EOS is versus BTC. Very low. Versus Tether. Low was $4 here, guys, back in March and April. Basically went fourfold from there, almost 5x. I think you can nibble on EOS down here. All this stuff is just lower lows. You got to nibble if you want to be long. Saying that all year, so at some point you get tired of buying lower lows. So that's what I mean by waiting on the higher lows. But this is certainly a spot where it makes some sense. I might actually pull the trigger on that. Let me wrap that up, guys, with the majors. I'm going to cover a bunch of alts in the morning. Have a little bit, see what the markets bring then. I'm going to do some other updates for some guys on these other markets. Yeah, that's all I got. I'm sure we'll have a podcast out here. Alec and I got a couple guests that want to come on, so maybe we'll hit some other topics and try to get into maybe something a little bit more interesting than watching lower lows. But we're just gonna have to stick it out, and hopefully September here, guys, we can put a little bit more energy back in the market. Anyway, I'll hit you guys up in the morning.